Hi everyone, welcome to IMS's analysis of the first lot of CAT 2019. As you know, it was conducted on the 24th of November 2019 between 9 am and 12 noon. Now, by all accounts, the conduct of the exam was fairly smooth and went off without any major technical glitches. Also, there was really no change in the overall pattern or in the types of questions from the last 3 years CAT. If we were to take a broad overview of the test, as we all know, it was divided into 3 sections. The first section being the verbal ability and reading comprehension section, VA and RC, made up of a total of 34 questions, which were split into 27 questions which were multiple choice questions and about 7 questions which were non-MCQs or what we call TITA questions, that is type in the answer type of questions. The difficulty level of the section can be classified as around medium. The second section, the data interpretation and logical reasoning section or DI and LR, had 32 questions, of which 24 questions were MCQ and 8 questions were of TITA type. The difficulty level of this section was also medium. The third section was the quantitative ability section, also having 34 questions, 23 of them MCQs and 11 non-MCQ or TITA questions. Overall, there were 100 questions in the test, of course, made up of 74 MCQs and 26 TITA questions. Based on the feedback received from several candidates, we estimate the scores and percentiles to be as follows. So for a 99 percentile, for instance, you would require around a score of 70 in the VA-RC section, around 51 in the DI-LR section and 57 in the Quant section. The overall score range for a 99 percentile would be from 161 to 164. Similarly, for 95 percentile, 59 in VA-RC, 40 in DI-LR and 40 also in Quant, with an overall score range of 127 to 130. 90 percentile would be 52 for VA-RC, 34 for DI-LR, 31 for Quant and a score range of 107 to 110 overall. And finally, if you consider 85 percentile would probably require a score of 45 in VA-RC, 29 in DI-LR, 27 in QA, with an overall score range of 95 to 98. Of course, these scores and percentiles are based on initial responses received from students who have appeared for the CAT in the first lot. We will be coming up with a final percentile mapper later in the day, so stay tuned. So what was a broad verdict on the test? On the first lot of the test was more or less on similar lines as CAT 18 in terms of difficulty level, of course. For individual sections, it might be a little different, but overall it was fairly similar to CAT 18. There were no surprises or new question types in CAT 2019. An overall attempt of roughly about 68 to 70 questions with an accuracy of 85% can be classified as a good performance in this test and would fetch around 99 percentile. IMS students would have found a great deal of similarity between some of the SimCATs and the CAT. Several students in fact gave the feedback that the CAT appeared an extension of the SimCATs as well as the eMaximizer workshops. Coming specifically to the first section of verbal ability and reading comprehension, the overall difficulty of VA-RC section of CAT 2019 was reported to be medium, but a little more than CAT 2018. IMS students would probably have recalled SimCATs like 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 and 13 as well as the pre-CAT when they saw the actual CAT. Not just in terms of segmentation, the actual CAT 19 VA-RC matched the difficulty level of these SimCATs as well. The VA-RC section was a replica of the CAT 18 section in terms of question types. So, for instance, grammar and vocab related questions were absent, as has been the case in the last 4 years. The RC section had 4 passages with 5 questions each and 1 passage with 4 questions, making up the total 24 questions. Few questions, of course, were direct and can be classified as easy. Most of the questions, however, were inference based. And like in CAT 2018, critical reasoning type questions were also present in the passages. The length of the passages varied from somewhere around 450 words to 500 words. Also similar to the CAT last year, the paragraph jumbles questions consisted of 4 jumbled sentences. Of the 10 non-RC, that is VA questions, 3 were MCQs and 7 were theta. So 3 out of context sentence questions were all theta. Similarly, the 4 paragraph jumbles were again all theta. Only the 3 paragraph summary or author's opinions questions were MCQs with negative marks. If I have to dig a little deeper into the VA-RC section and give you a little more detail on that, in the reading comprehension section, right, the first RC passage was on the British folk music, which had 5 questions, all of MCQ type, and this set was notoriously difficult. The second set on topophilia also had 5 questions, was also MCQ based. However, the difficulty level was easier, right? Slightly easy. It can be classified as a medium difficulty passage. Probably the easiest passage of the lot was the one on emperor penguins, which had 4 questions, all of again MCQ types. The internet shopping and choice anxiety related set was again of medium difficulty level, again having 5 MCQ questions. And finally, the set on the origin of the story of Aladdin also had 5 MCQ questions and could also be classified as medium difficulty. Coming to verbal ability, in the 10 questions, overall I would say that the verbal ability section was of medium difficulty as compared to the RC section, which could be classified as medium to difficult. The 4 parajumbles questions, each having 4 sentences, all of them theta type of course, as I have said earlier. One of them was easy, 2 of them can be classified as medium, with 1 question being difficult. The 3 out of context sentence questions, right, again all of them theta, had about 2 medium difficulty level questions and 1 difficult. And the 3 summary based questions, right, which were MCQ questions, had 1 each of easy, medium and difficult level of difficulty. Overall, an attempt of about 24 to 26 questions in this section with 85% accuracy should be a good bet. Moving on to the second section, that is data interpretation and logical reasoning. The DI and LR section had a total of 8 sets with 4 questions in each set. There were, however, only 2 sets that could be categorized as data interpretation sets, right? 5 sets were purely logical reasoning sets, while 1 set was a combination of DI and LR. There were 3 easy to medium sets, right? Those sets were easily doable. 2 sets were medium, 1 set was medium to difficult, and 2 were actually quite difficult. Some of the sets were difficult to comprehend and very time consuming. For example, the archery set or the set related to crimes in states and street intersections. Identifying and skipping those sets and attempting all the remaining sets would take your score relatively higher. So selection of the right sets to solve was the key to a good performance in this section. 1 set was completely theta with 4 questions, and the remaining 4 theta questions were dispersed across 2 individual sets with 2 theta questions each. 5 sets on the other hand were completely MCQ based. So there were a total of 8 theta questions, as I have already mentioned earlier. If you look at the detailed description of this set, okay, the linear arrangement in supermarket set, right, was of course an LR set, which was arrangement based set, consisting of 4 questions of medium difficulty level, all 4 being MCQs. The set on bar charts and tables, which was on crimes in states, that was a DI set, a fairly calculation based DI set, again having 4 questions, which was fairly difficult to solve, right? 2 of those questions were MCQs and the remaining 2 were theta. The set on archery, right, which was classified as a difficult set also, right, was purely LR based. You can consider it as games and tournament based. 4 questions difficult, with all 4 being MCQs. The set on prizes to be put in 100 boxes was a medium difficulty level set. It was a logical reasoning puzzle based set, right, having 2 MCQs and 2 theta questions. The set on coding, right, which was also a logical reasoning puzzle based set, however was comparatively easier, right, so it can be classified as an easy to medium set, having 4 theta questions. The set on spider charts, right, on 5 vendors and 6 attributes, right, that set was a DI set, right, a reasoning based DI set, right, having 4 easy to medium questions, 2 of which were MCQs and 2 were theta. And finally, the streets intersection set, right, the final 2 sets, right. So the street intersection set was a puzzle based LR question, puzzle based LR set, right, having 4 medium to difficult questions, all 4 being MCQs. And the last set on dancers and composers was also comparatively easier, right, so an easy to medium kind of a set, which was an arrangement based logical reasoning set, having all 4 MCQs. So some of these sets that could definitely have been solved were the ones based on spider chart, coding and dancers and composers. Overall, the section was marginally easier as compared to the last year CAT. An attempt of around 5 sets, right, with around 18 to 20 questions in this section with an 85% to a 90% kind of an accuracy should see your percentile being in the vicinity of about 99 in this particular section. And the final section is the one on quantitative ability. This section was of medium difficulty level. There were 13 easy, 13 to 15 medium and around 6 to 8 difficult questions. In fact, as per student feedback that we've collected, it was slightly easier than the QA section of last year's CAT. However, it was tougher than the QA section of CAT 2017. Like the last couple of years, for the CAT QA section, this section was dominated by arithmetic, right, with as many as around 13 questions, followed by modern math with about 8 questions, geometry with 7 and algebra with 5 questions. Surprisingly, there was only 1 question on numbers. Now, out of the 34 questions in quant, there were 11 theta questions this year. If one went through the entire section, then there were about 10 to 12 sitters for the taking, while 6 to 8 questions would have probably made you sweat. The breakup of the area-wise breakup in this particular section would be as below. So numbers, as I said, was only 1 question, somewhat around medium difficulty level. 13 arithmetic questions could be classified as 11 easy and 2 around medium difficulty questions. The 5 algebra questions had 3 medium questions and 2 fairly difficult ones. Out of these 7 geometry questions, 2 of them were very easy, 4 would be of medium difficulty and 1 was a difficult question. And the 8 modern math questions could be classified as 5 being medium and 3 being difficult questions. Surprisingly, there were no diagrams at all in any geometry questions. But the questions were of different difficulty level, as I've already mentioned. All the arithmetic questions were fairly doable. Overall, an attempt of about 20 to 22 questions in this section with an 85% accuracy should be a good bet. So talking about the overall test experience, right? Let's talk about that. So as we know, around 2.44 lakh candidates registered for CAT 2019, right? They would be appearing for the test in both the slots across 156 cities in about 370 exam centers. If I were to talk about the process, again based on feedback that we've been receiving from test takers, the administrative process was fairly smooth. No major glitches or technical issues were reported. As in the past, the policy of no shoes, no metallic objects, including metal jewelry, etc., prevailed. Only the admit card and the ID proof were allowed. Nothing else was. Also, as in the previous year, the authorities took possession of the admit cards. The candidates were given a small pad with the IMCAT logo on the cover, consisting of about 32 pages for rough work and a pen, which are also, of course, taken away at the end of the exam. There have been, of course, reports that some centers had been a little lax in terms of their procedures, whereas in other centers, the procedures were adhered to quite strictly. So, all in all, one came out of the CAT with very little proof of having appeared for the CAT, except of course for the good memories that they would have got. So let's talk now about the test interface. right? The test interface was of course exactly what IMS students are used to in the SimCATs and specifically in the pre-CAT. It was a very user-friendly interface and exactly the one provided in the official CAT mock test also. There were no subdivisions within each section. The VA-RC questions were not interspersed within the section, right? Questions 1 to 24 were purely RC and the remaining were purely VA. However, the different VA question types were of course shuffled. Okay. Similarly, the DI and LR sets were also not interspersed. Okay. A simple calculator was provided of course on screen, but it wasn't a scientific one, right? There was an arrow provided near the question palette which when clicked expanded the question window to full screen view by hiding the question palette, and of course it's a toggle question, right? At the end of the test, a summary of the number of questions attempted, visited and not visited was displayed for each section. There was a button marked question paper which opened up a screen containing all the questions of the section. This was of course used by students for planning their approach for the section. So all in all, CAT 2019 in the first slot was a very student friendly test, right? Each section was timed for 60 minutes as I'm sure you are aware. One could not go back and forth between the sections. The marking scheme was also similar to last year, right? So with +3 for every correct answer and -1 for incorrect answers for the MCQs, with the theta questions having no negative marks, right? So that brings us to the end of the analysis of the first slot of CAT 2019. Stay tuned for more action from us, right? Thank you very much.